Okay, Eve, and this time I am back. Shlomo Taub, you with me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay.
My mistake. I gave the technician the wrong telephone number. Happens.
Oh, no, nothing wrong.
My brain is still too full of matzah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, thank you for coming on the show today, especially the day before the day that we commemorate the Holocaust. Although through your work, I think that you are pretty much still living the ramifications of the Holocaust. So, how about if you tell the listeners what it is that you do through your company called Legacy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Go.
Okay. Legacy is an organization which claims property in Eastern Europe, mainly in Poland. We must remember that before the Second World War, Poland was a country. Why Poland? We must remember that Poland was a country of 3.5 million Jews.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, only 300,000 left. The 3.5 million. This is shocking, but I know that everybody knows these numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But as shocking as it is, property wasn't erased. Life was erased. Property was not.
Mm-hmm.
My point is to call for awareness, and we are doing it on and on, every few weeks, every few months, all over the world, wherever we reach, awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Those 300,000 people who survived, they have rights to claim what was never erased, what was never destroyed. It is there, being used. We say, go take it. If you cannot take it, sue for it, claim. Otherwise, everything is erased and lost, because time is of an essence. That's the main point of this program, I think.
Now, it is clear, Shlomo, that you're very passionate about what you do. How did you get into this? Because this is a private concern. You weren't hired by the government or by anybody to go after property of Jews who were killed and property that belongs to their heirs. This involved you as well, I hear?
Definitely. I must say very strongly that there are many organizations that put their hand in and are dealing or dealt with such a success or another success with the issue of restitution, property claims, etc. There is a Sochnut HaYehudit, there is a Congress, there is a Bnei Brit, joint, there's like 10 or 20 organizations all over the world.
Right.
Unfortunately, the number of $40 billion of assets and properties and businesses and land still exist in Poland, not touched Jewish property. Unfortunately, according to a report that was done by the Israeli government not very long ago in 2005, the overall number is 150 billion US dollars in numbers of 1997's value.
So it's property that belongs to Jews, but
Jewish
is not
property, private Jewish plus a community property. Community property is only 5% of the total. So you can just imagine what is the total of the private.
Well, I would think it's obvious why the Polish government isn't going to cooperate here. No? To a certain degree?
Definitely.
Speaking about those kinds of figures?
Well, the Polish government, that's a different episode. I would like to לפזר את הענן, את האבק, to
blow away some of the smoke.
Right.
Clear away some of the smoke, right.
The Polish government, it's a very, very special, they act very specially. There's actually a cynical game being played over there. Unfortunately, as I told you before, in Poland, almost every year there's a new government. Almost every prime minister comes up with a beautiful invitation, with a very kind invitation to Jewish organizations from all over the world. And only last month or 2 months ago it happened. Again, with the new Mr. Tusk, which is a new, Donald Tusk is a new prime minister in Poland since November 2007. He invited also from Israel representatives, and he said, I made it clear that the compensation will be given. But he also said something else. I made it very clear, and I'm reading to you from a U.S. paper, from Washington newspaper of last month, I made it clear that the compensation will be limited to a minimum percentage of the value of the property, and that the payment will be spread over a long period.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I want to tell to people who come to us on a daily basis and ask, hey, Shlomo, we hear that there is in Poland, which is a massive Jewry was from there, is from there, they are giving something. There is light in the end of the tunnel.
Mm-hmm. 10
there
or 15%.
Is no light. There is a long, cynical game. Because this long period that the Polish people are going to play with, within the law, within the constitution law which they are talking about, and to whoever doesn't know, the Polish government, the same, has offered a constitution to constitute a law for restitution of 10 to 15% of the value.
Mm-hmm.
What is the cynical game? They don't say value of what. The value can be of a value of today,
Or 1930. Mm-hmm.
1930, or some estimation.
Mm-hmm.
So we already know, according to Mr. Tusk's declaration, that it's going to be the lowest. We already know that it's going to be very long, and we already know that whoever will stand in line will have to prove that he's entitled. Meaning that out of the number of Holocaust survivors that are entitled to stand in line, many will just end their life during standing in line.
Right.
Because how old can they be?
Right.
They can be in their 90s.
And their children just, it's too much trouble, they're involved with their own lives.
Too much trouble. Second generation will never be as strong and passionate and understanding and with data, just like the old generation.
Mm-hmm. So how do you help people? What do? You have offices in different parts of Eastern Europe? You have lawyers?
Actually, before answering this question, I'd like to answer a previous question that you asked me.
Okay.
How did I get to it?
Right.
I was born in Poland after the war, and my family stayed in Poland. They decided to establish their life as Holocaust survivors in Krakow, and they owned property there. And we were always told, we came to Israel in 1951, we always were told that there is property that we owned and nobody can and should go and touch it because nobody should step on Polish soil. Years after, many years after, which means about 10 years ago, I've decided that I would like to see what my parents spoke about. What is it? And I saw beautiful residential homes in the middle of Krakow, in the Jewish area, in Kazimierz, and one in Podgórz, which is right near the Wisla River, beautiful scenery from the windows, standing buildings in a good condition, and Polish people living there. And I didn't even know if they know that there was once a Jewish owner.
Mm-hmm.
I decided to go to find out, and authorities, how are they manage these properties, and I was told that there is an administration that cares or take care of these buildings on behalf of Jews that are not here anymore.
Absentee owners, as it were? Mm-hmm.
Right. And my parents were still registered as owners.
Are your parents still alive?
No.
So you didn't do this until after they had passed away?
Right. I did it after they passed away.
Right. That's,
and luckily, they were registered, and more than that, it was very easy. It was a piece of cake to go to prove that I'm the heir, because I'm their son. So I went and I conducted the inheritance procedure with a legal office that I've met. And I made some market research for law offices that will be willing to deal with such a procedure, and I found a few law officers that were willing to collaborate with me. And it took me 2 years to be invited to stand in front of a judge in Krakow and to be awarded of 2 beautiful residential homes and as owners. And so while I did it for myself, many people came to me and asked me, "Hey, Shlomo, how did you do it? You know, maybe you can find our property in Lodz or in Miechov or in Novi Sącz," and I've done it.
And such legacy was born.
That's how legacy was born. With one office in Krakow. Now we have also an office in Warsaw, and we spread it to Prague. We deal with Czech Republic, with Romania, and slightly also with Germany. Even though in Germany it's bad news, because I would say that the timeline has closed its gates long ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's
So
what we do.
I'm going to repeat it at the end, but I also want to say it now. How would someone get in touch with you if one of our listeners is saying, "Oh, this might apply to me. Maybe you can help"? How would you have a website?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe give it now.
Yeah. First, I'd like to give our website, which is www.polishlegacy.org.
Okay.
Secondly, anybody that knows information about where his parents or grandparents are coming from, he should really put down on a paper what is the exact address, who were the owners, draw down a family tree, know where you came from, and know who might have been the owner. Then you'll be able to start even the procedure to verify if you have any chance to become an owner. Because property in 60 years may have gone through different stages.
Right.
Okay, but in any case, finding out if there is such a chance, it's always worthwhile. And I must say that out of every 10 properties that we make our analysis, between 2 to 3 properties are going back to ownership of Jewish clients.
Really?
Yeah.
What do most people do? Do they sell them then?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do? They don't want to be connected anymore.
Nobody wants to hold it because to manage a property that you own in abroad, I mean in a country like Poland, is playing with the unknown, and it's not a good business to hold it over there. You want to sell it immediately, even for less money, but you want out. But get it first.
Right.
Don't lose the momentum. And it's, I would say, we call it Chalon Izdamunuyot, an opportunity window.
Opportunity. Right.
Also due to the fact that on a daily basis, there are less potential claimants. Every day there are less potential claimants due to few factors. One of them is that the old people, unfortunately, are going to another world, and the second generation, as you said, is less interested. Second, Polish and just as other countries are erasing old buildings. Old buildings in good conditions may be erased also because they want to put a bank over there in the area, they want to change it to a town hall, etc. So
you lose the building.
Definitely.
Or you could make a claim on the land, or that would be very difficult.
It would be more difficult.
More difficult.
Especially if it is nationalized. So that's what we do. We find if it is nationalized, we find if it exists, what is the value. According to the value, we decide if there is any business prospect for the client to go for it. But not doing nothing is just a waste. It's just a waste not doing nothing.
I mean, excuse me if this next question is foolish or naive, but why didn't what took for you to come almost 60 years later to get this done? You know, we hear a lot about Germany paid reparations to survivors or to the State of Israel many, many years ago. But there's so much out there, and you're probably just dealing with a part of it, with Poland. There's more out there. Why does it have to be you? Why a private initiative? Where were the more formal bodies to be able to take care of it? I don't even know if you have an answer to this.
There's no answer to this.
There's no answer.
This is actually like asking why a criminal is committing a crime. As I said, there are so many organizations that were nominated to deal with this issue, and the result is one big flunk, one big zero. They don't do nothing. They collect files which collect dust, and I'm familiar with those companies, and the clients are coming back to me with the dusty folder that was lying for 10, 15 years with nothing moving. Just nothing moving. The fact is that the claim has to be done against the law over there, or in a certain way that you don't antagonize the law in order to make a client an heir. I became an heir in 2 years. I mean, what's the big deal? My father was the owner. I'm a son. That's it. Property can be mine immediately. Can you imagine out of the 280, 300,000 people that survived it, they will start to do it on the beginning of 2001, let's say 1999, or when the communism fell, okay? So people could have gone to Poland and start to move on it.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing was moved on the national base, on the national level.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever is dealing with the issue today is מחלקת הגמלאים, which is Rafi Eitan with his...
The pensioners.
Right, with the pensioners. This is not a business for pensionerim. It's not a business for people who are going to be in a position for a short period of time. Just like in Poland, every year a new government is coming and the next one is starting from the beginning. It's a business for people to start, to take it on a business basis and to finish with it case by case.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard nut. It's not easy. Don't kill yourself that it's easy.
Right.
But if it is not done on a purely business basis in Poland, in Czechoslovakia, and in Romania, and in other countries, nothing moves.
Mm-hmm. Well, you had the advantage, as it were, of a death of being able to prove that you were your father's son, your parents' child, and that this was their property. But there may be many situations where, as we know, there were a lot of people were killed. There's no death certificate. There's no proof. So our papers were lost. Is there any hope then for anybody with their claims?
Yeah, that's why I mentioned before that the percentage, we have to relate to the percentage. If on each case 2 to 3 properties are going back, that's really a good score.
Mm-hmm.
8 or 7, unfortunately, will fall in this basket of no marriage certificate,
mm-hmm.
no proof, or among those people will be people that do not deserve to be owners. I have people come to me and ask me for property, and when I claim in Krakow, for example, and when I ask them what is your connection to the owner after they drew to me the family tree, I didn't see their name on, and they say there is no connection. Why should there be a connection? So I say, okay, forget it. It was a very nice discussion, good coffee, that's it.
Right.
It must be a pure connection between the claimant and the previous owner.
Mm-hmm.
So in those countries that we operate, it is fairly easy in many cases to detect documentation. I found in Poland documentation that people are looking for many, many years. And in those countries, if you come and you go to the right authorities, sometimes as a tourist when you go there, they may tell you it doesn't exist. Don't you know that there's no more Jews in town? You know, that's what I've heard also. Officers told Jewish tourism. But when we go there, we don't go as Shlomo Tau. A lawyer will go over, or a geodesist, or somebody from a local.
Mm-hmm.
You must do it by local people. The local professional will go in and he will talk to the Polish officer in his own language.
Right.
So it will be completely different. And especially if you will smear him with a little,
the local language.
Definitely,
right.
you talk to them in the language. In Romania, it is even worse. When you not in the official, in the bureaucratic offices like governmental offices, the smearing starts with the lawyers. Mm-hmm. If you go to a lawyer and you want a birth certificate, you may have to pay a few $100 for it, but you will get it at the end of the day because it's very easy. Mm-hmm. So, okay, it's expensive. But if we evaluate the property that it's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, so we will tell the customers what is going to be the average cost in the beginning in order to go step by step. Mm-hmm. Because you really have to go step by step in order to find yourself in the end of the way a winner. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It just brings to mind the biblical, have you murdered from Achav, right? Haratzachta v'gam yarashta. They killed the Jews and they also took their property. And
this is the name of the game. Haratzachta v'gam yarashta, and we will not give it to happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's terrible to to even think of the Holocaust in economic terms. The fact is that there was money that was stolen in addition to people being killed. And there are many survivors or their children who are also desperate for money now. And we hear about this all the time.
That's
documentaries about survivors who are in very, very bad shape. Their hard-working years were spent in concentration camps, and they've gone through a very difficult time ever since and need medications now and simply don't have the money to pay for it.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Only recently we have a small episode. Recently we sent an old customer of ours to Poland, to Częstochowa, to stand in front of court. Okay, so not too many heard about this little town, Częstochowa, which is not so little, but in Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, comparing to Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, it's little, but in Poland,
Right.
it's okay. He went, he stood in court, and the judge asked this old man, which is in his late 80s, if he can provide him the certificate of his father. And when we said that the father was killed in Auschwitz, so the judge said, law is a law, and that's what we have to provide. So we don't give up in these cases as well, and we start a procedure of a death certificate, and the guy will own, in the end of the day,
He
a
will.
big mansion over there. It's a big building.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very easy to say there's no death certificate. Why should he do something? I mean, the trip to Poland costs money. He's going to get a property which is far above the $1 million worth.
Mm-hmm.
And we do hope that he will reach to this moment to step on this one, because he is an old man. But he
Right.
has children, he has grandchildren.
There's also a moral issue here that
That's
they
right.
shouldn't get away with it.
That's right. That's
Right.
right. So
Okay,
the main
so-
point, what we want to say, is awareness, awareness, and awareness.
And quickly, because
Not
time
to
is running
give
out.
up, because time is playing a major role.
Thank you. Shlomo Taub, PolishLegacy.org. If any of you listening feel in any way can help you, write him a letter. Okay, thank you so much
Thank
for joining
you.
me today.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
this